building here. So, but it was. Thank you. I was still nobody answered me. So. Yeah, thanks. All right, now I appreciate Greg filling in for me. It was a joy and be able to help and get some insight from how things are going down there, and but appreciate him taking you through Jericho. But we're going to be in Joshua 7 tonight, and not looking at the full thing of this battle of Ai, but looking at the sin aspect of the book of Ai. We probably won't get any further than that. But just looking at this thought that sin makes a difference, doesn't it? Not in a good way, but a negative way. And I come across this illustration today about a puffer fish. The puffer fish looks about as threatening as a pet goldfish, but it carries deadly toxins that can kill a person after just a few bites of puffer of the fish. Every year, several people in Japan die from eating this unique fish delicacy, and many others get sick. The danger is so great that Japanese chefs must receive years of training to learn the intricate skill of removing the lethal toxin before they can be certified to serve puffer. And so as you think about that, I just begin to think about, flirting with death is what's happening. And I was just thinking about sin. It's like you don't want to flirt. It's just like having years of training there's so many other things you could eat, right? You wouldn't have to eat the puffer fish. But I was just thinking about how sometimes people will flirt with sin, get so close to it, and that's what you see in this story, that they flirted with sin. One family did, and it never pays well, okay? And so take that for what it is. I didn't know that information, but it just got me to thinking about as I was looking at this chapter. I want to point something out about Joshua. If you look at verse 27 of chapter 6, it says, "So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was noised throughout all the country." That was the last thing that was said in the 6th chapter about the walls of Jericho falling. You get into chapter 7, that all becomes vulnerable. But Joshua's name, there was a noise about victory, but now in chapter 7, the noise could be far different if things aren't ironed out with sin that has made its way into the camp. But the battle of Ai is where we're going to be tonight. Let's look at verse 1. Let's just start into it, and we'll get into our points tonight. The main points tonight, I just want to deal with sin, what it does, what we must do with it, etc. So we'll get into a little bit of the story before I get into the points tonight that I want to guide us through. Verse 1, it says, But the children of Israel committed a trespass in the accursed thing, for Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took of the accursed thing, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against the children of Israel. Okay? And Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Bethaven, on the east side of Bethel, and spake unto them, saying, Go up and view the country. And the men went up and viewed Ai. Okay? And they returned to Joshua and said unto him, Let not all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and smite Ai, and make not all the people to labor thither, for they are but few. So there went up thither of people about 3,000, and they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai smote of them about 36 men, so 36 men, for they chased them from before the gate, even unto Shebrim, and smote them in the going down, wherefore the hearts of the people melted and became as water. So, as I begin to read this, Joshua and the children of Israel just came from a a victory of all victories that they've had. I mean, Jericho was a fortified city. And I'm sure y'all even talked about how thick the walls were. I mean, it's just a huge victory. And when I begin to think about the victory, the path to victory in Jericho and the path to go into Ai, just looking at what are the differences? Because things were different as far as the outcome initially, at least at Ai. Things will get better, but here it is a flop. It is a mistake. Men of their own men, 36 men have died. But as you look at this, I mean, what we see out of Joshua is replicating what was done prior to the march over Jericho. He sent spies over. That was similar, right? Sent spies over to Jericho. They met Rahab. Rahab, she did her part. They did their part. She was delivered, and she was a part of the children of Israel. But there's a distinction that I see, and as I've read others will point it out as well, is that there was a point there in Joshua, as you look back, that Joshua was up near Jericho and the captain of the Lord's army met him. So it gives you this sense that Joshua sort of stepped off by himself and was just almost like a moment of surveying, like, how are we going to do this? And meditating and just spending time. And the captain of the Lord comes to him. And so you see this conversation between the leader of the Israeli people and the leader of God's army. They were conversing, and God said, here's how you need to do this. So Joshua, he gave a moment of pause, and God gave the plan. When you look at chapter 7, you see a little bit of difference. What they did send spies, that's the same. The spies came back. To me, as I read this, I don't know if you may catch this too, I almost sense just a little bit of overconfidence. Hey, listen, they're a small city, and even the name Ai means that I can't remember the exact definition, but it means rubble, or they're not a real thriving city, so they're smaller. No need to take everybody, just take a few, and we'll go up. And I get this sense of overconfidence. And they didn't have the overconfidence before they went to Jericho. But now they've come right out of a huge battle, and they're just going to keep the momentum going. I mean, that's where my mind goes. Keep the momentum going. And the spies come back, and they say, well, let's just do this. And Joshua, as you see, there's no pause like there was before, and there was like a conversation with God or, the angel of the Lord or anything like that. He took the message from the spies and did what they said. And it seemed like there wasn't much time in between what the spies said and Joshua's command to go on. And this overconfidence, in my opinion, as I look at this, was the beginning of, these 36 men are going to lose their life. Have you ever been overconfident? And it really eventually just does. It brings more mistakes. That is the foundation for mistakes as you go forward, and that's the picture that I see as we look at this. Also they had. So I want to get into my first point because I want to turn back to Joshua chapter 6 in just a minute. So sin had happened, as we see, as God told them. There's sin. The very beginning of verse 1, right? There's the accursed thing. So, number one, sin denies victory. And that's what happened. Achan, his family sinned. We learned that right out of the gate. But in the present moment, Joshua and them didn't know that. So, what we learn is this, first of all, is that sin rises when disobedience comes up. When disobedience brings sin. Sin brings problems. Sin brings failure. And that's what you find. If you'll look back at chapter 6, verse 17, you all read this a couple weeks ago. I mean, God is very plain, like, here's what you don't do, right? Verse 17, it says, and the city shall be accursed, city of Jericho, even it, and all that are therein, to the Lord. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that were sent, and ye in any wise keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest ye make yourselves accursed. When ye take of the accursed thing, and make the camp of Israel a curse, and trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord. So there's two things here. God's given a two-part warning. There's the accursed thing. Do not touch it. And then don't rob me. Don't take what's mine to go into the treasury of the Lord. Like don't take from me. Don't rob me. And don't take of the accursed thing. Because what you find here, this image that's coming about, and we'll see it a little bit later, he's like, because when you become accursed, everybody becomes accursed. It's not just to focus on the individual, but God's going to see this as a corporate cursing. Okay? And we'll dive more into that as we go through, but pay attention to how that's impactful, how that impacts the whole. So God gave clear instructions. But isn't it sad that when God gives clear instructions even to us, how our lower nature at times we will try to, well, that's a gray line, or we'll try to sort of move things around, or we'll say, well, you know, that's okay. That's a part of my life. It'll be okay. It's not going to cause that big a problem. Your lower nature already goes against it, okay? And so human nature always opposes God's instructions. And I begin to think about verses like this, and these are on the screen for you. Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Right? Psalm 139:1. O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. And Psalm 139:23. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. And so the psalmist says, I do not trust my own heart. I need to take time to make sure there's no sin in me. Okay? And what you look here in these few verses, as if remember, Joshua is leading like 2 million plus people come out of Jericho. There was a command, don't take the accursed thing, don't rob me. Would you think it would be good to pause and make sure everybody listened to God before we went to the next battle? That's just my thinking. Like, let's make sure everybody followed the command of God in this, because we want God's presence. What made the difference in the Battle of Jericho? Who won the battle? God did. God's presence, God's favor. So if we want God's favor and blessings, even if it's a smaller battle, it doesn't matter how small it is. You're going to have God to have the victory. It doesn't matter. And and then we see the impact of this sin, right? Notice it said, many men died. 36 men. Don't we know that even today? Does a verse come to mind about how sin pays? The Bible uses the word wages. Yeah. And I know in the context of that verse is dealing with salvation, but sin impacts Christians too. We deteriorate. When we commit sin, we're dying every day. Our life is expiring. And notice, I just see so much a difference from previous chapters, even from the chapter 1. Notice it said in verse 5, and the hearts of the people did what? Melted and became as water. So that means no strength, right? What was repeated time and time again in Joshua's, as he was taking up the mantle, if you will, in chapter 1, even before that, but in the first part of this book, what was a repetitive command of God? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. a time of pause. Yeah. Yeah, because that part's it's not there, and so we estimate that that moment of pause wasn't there, and like I said before, well, AI is just so much smaller. We don't really have to take that much time as we did before to think about it, maybe pray about it. But yes, if there's going to be any type of victory at all for you, you got to consult God. And here's the thing too that we got to learn as well, even for our own lives: a past victory does not guarantee your future victory. Is the past victory is not a foundation for the next one. The foundation's God. So don't think because I had a past victory, I'm going to have this future victory too. It's not based on past victories. It's based on following the Lord, trusting Him, consulting Him. That's the guarantee of victory. And it just seems like in the text, like, they're pumped up and they're building on that. Well, they're much smaller. Let's just go. And it don't work that way. Anytime we become overconfident, we become vulnerable. When we become overconfident, we're now the temptation. We allow ourselves to be more vulnerable to be tempted to move on without God when we become overconfident. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So even think about our own lives. Who faces temptations? We all do. So even if it's the smallest of temptations, they are too powerful for you to handle on your own. Smallest of temptations. You've got to lean on the Lord, walk in the Spirit. And so the only kind of victory you have is the kind God gives you. It doesn't come from anywhere else. Okay? So you find the impact of sin. Many men died. The entire Israeli army melted in fear. If you look back at Joshua 2 in verse 11, it wasn't Israelis where they were melted out of fear. It was Jericho. It was the one they were going to go face, right? Joshua 2:11. And as soon as we heard these things, this is what Rahab said, our heart did melt. Why? Why was their heart melting? Why were they losing courage? Because up to that point, they were trusting the Lord to do all that was happening. It says, neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you, for the Lord your God, He is God in heaven above and in earth beneath. So all up to that point in Jericho, everybody saw their God, which is Jehovah, Elohim. But in Ai, nobody saw God in that. So there's this difference. The melting part of the heart, strength, now is on the Israeli army. And also, too, Joshua began to doubt following God this far. If you keep reading a little bit more in verse 6, let's pick up there. Joshua got into some doubts. So Joshua rent his clothes. See what time it is. Rent his clothes and fell to the earth upon his face before the ark of the Lord until the eventide, he and the elders of Israel, and put dust upon their heads. Okay. And Joshua said, alas, O Lord God, wherefore hast thou at all brought this people over Jordan to deliver us in the hand of the Amorites to destroy us? Would to God we had been content and dwelt on the other side of Jordan. O Lord, what shall I say when Israel turneth their backs before the enemies? Okay. For the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land shall hear of it, and shall environ us around, and cut off our name from the earth. What wilt thou do unto thy great name? Okay? So let's stop there for a second. So Joshua, as we look here in these verses, Joshua now is mourning. He is humbled. He's now seeking God. It's a little, as they say, a day late and a dollar short. Like you can't get those 36 lives back, but you can learn, you can grow, move forward, and prevent any other disaster, right? I would say in moments like this, the devil, maybe he's done it to you or just your own flesh, got you to thinking more about, well, look at the mistake and the results that come from that already. You might as well just give up It's not going to get any better. You can't come out of this, etc. The devil loves to sow lies like that. But even if you've had mistakes and it has a ripple effect in other people's lives, don't say, well, I can't come out of this or be better from this. Like, turn to God and get back on your feet. And that's what's going to happen to Joshua. But there's two parts to Joshua's mourning. One, he entertains the thought that they should have just settled on the other side of Jordan and not went this far into the land. We should have just been content with the other parts of our Jewish people and just stayed on the other side of the river and just not come this far. So remember, God's initial plan is for them all to come and take the whole land, but well, maybe we should have just stayed over there. So he has this moment of doubt. And let this, and I think this is healthy for me as a pastor and any church leader, any Christian. Anybody can get into a season of doubt and even questioning God if you're not careful. It's never a mistake to follow God all the way. Never. It's always the right thing to do. Okay? God never makes the mistakes. There's a God, you just left us here and hand us over to the Amorites. Does that sound familiar? Did Moses hear a lot of that when he was leading the children of Israel out of Egypt? Well, you just left us here. We crave the food. I can't remember what they were called, leeks or the type of melons and stuff from Egypt. We just crave those. Now we're here in the desert. You left us here to die. You may have thought all that just died with that generation. But that tells you every generation has this vulnerability of saying, well, God, you just left us here to just shrivel up and die, and are you even care? Another thing that I see about this is God permits Joshua to speak to him this way. He allows him to be honest about his feelings. He allows him to be honest about his doubts. That tells me about a gracious God. Read the Psalms, right? Psalms many times, God, it's like you're not even there, and God permits us as feeble human beings to come and just give where we think things are why things are happening, our perspective and our doubts and our questions, and He permits that. He gives us room for that. But we also need to listen when He corrects us in our doubts, and you see that in the Psalms as well, and you're going to see that here too. But I think the biggest thing with Joshua, not just the doubt, he had that for a moment, but I think probably the biggest thing for Joshua is the name of God. He really cared about God's name. He said, what's going to happen to your name if all the people hears about this travesty that's happened at Ai? So let me ask you a question. Should we all care about the name of God that we're representing in our lives, in our church, in our conduct with those that are lost, in our conduct with those who are saved? Like, we are representing the name of God. And Joshua's like, what's going to happen to your name? But I will say this, God knows how to take care of His name too. Okay? Follow His plan. But, God even threatened, I'm just talking about some impacts of this sin, right? God threatened to even withdraw Himself from them. Whoa. Like, I don't want to live a life where God's like, I'm going to withdraw myself if this sin's here. Okay? I can't remember, it's Pastor Gillett, I think that was his name. Gillett, I can't remember. I think I've mispronounced his name. Anyway, he said this once at a conference. He said the land without God is just dirt. That just always stuck with me. It's just dirt. But with God, it's a land there of promise and victory, and where God's there, things are different. And then you're going to find also Achan's family will be destroyed. So there's so much that sin is done. Okay? So the impact of sin. So as you look on, which we're running out of time, you come to this part where sin, number 2, sin must be uncovered. Okay? And so Joshua, you'll find, first of all, Joshua turned to God in humble sorrow, needing answers. Okay? God, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why this is happening. You ever asked that? God, I don't understand. I feel like I've done the same things as I did before. You just can't see the mistake. You just can't. But aren't you thankful God is truly omniscient? When you can't see the sin God does. And if you'll just pause and be quiet and don't be arrogant and don't be self-righteous and just say, God, point the sin out. As the psalmist says, search me, know me, try me. I can't see it for myself. You're going to have to show me. God will do that. But then when he does, when he uncovers it, then you got to be willing to uncover it too. Okay? Not leave it hidden. So that's what we're going to get into in these next verses, in verse 6 through verse 16. Joshua is humbling himself and talking to God and asking him for a plan. Okay? Because you look here, what do you think, I mean, compared to, and I wrote these down, 36 men died, so 2,964 men made it back. What's the big deal? It's 36 men. That's a pretty small number. I mean, we'll take. I think it's a W. We'll take it. Let's not worry about it. Was that Joshua's attitude? No. Like, this is not a win. Joshua wasn't satisfied with whatever it is, whatever's causing this, to take another life. Like, he had no tolerance for anything like this happening again to the smallest scale, even smaller than 36, just one. He didn't want. And I just want to encourage us tonight, let us have a no tolerance for sin or disobedience, no matter what. And so I'd encourage us going forward tonight, let's make sure that we take time and consult God. We're going to get into the plan that God gives him. He's going to take this train wreck, and he's going to take it. He's going to make it a beautiful victory, and only God can do that. We're going to see that part of it as we come back to this. So, anyone wants to add anything else tonight?